As COVID-19 continues to wreak havoc here on Earth, there's no escape for the spiritual realm either. It's a markedly different Hungry Ghost Festival this year. No crowds, no live performances, and no front row seats for spirits looking for a show. But that doesn't mean that 7th month traditions are dead. In Singapore, performers are going digital in their quest to keep festivities alive. In this episode of CNA Correspondent, we look at the new normal here and hereafter. It's the 7th month of the lunar calendar, also known as the Hungry Ghost Festival in parts of Asia. During this time, Buddhists and Taoists believe that the gates of hell will open. And for believers in Singapore, the festival is also a time for them to make offerings of food, money, and even entertainment for spirits that are believed to be roaming the earth this month. But the COVID-19 pandemic that's sweeping the globe right now has also forced some changes on how the festival is being held. Crowd-drawing mainstays like live auctions and grand dinners are nowhere to be seen. And public getai performances, flashy shows to entertain both the living and the dead, are taking on a different form. Getai shows can't be held the traditional way this year, but they live on online. To find out more about the impact of getais going virtual,
Hi Alvin. Hi Jeremy. Hi.
I catch up with 19-year-old Polytechnic student Alvin Tan. When I met him last year, he was making his getai debut in front of huge crowds. This year, there are no cheering fans. He's in a studio performing for the cameras.
I could say that maybe in the past, that getai, maybe when we crack jokes on stage and stuff, the audiences give us back laughter, and we also hear their applause and stuff, and it's a form of encouragement towards us, that we can see that people that actually like the songs that we perform on stage. But for online live shows, we only get to see like the comments that people write. In the studio now, as we can see that our getai organizer actually do bring the gods into the studio so that they can kind of watch the getai at the same time while we are performing.
When we start live streaming on 7 months, people start to throw questions. Then how's a good brother to watch? Okay, they must have a handphone or a smartphone to watch the live streaming. But to me is that despite of this period, we still carry on running the 7-month festival. We're still running the getai. It's just that not to let this culture to being stopped.
Up to 10,000 viewers tune in for each live broadcast, and Alvin's 75-year-old grandmother is one of them.
The only thing that has been changed is like she can't enjoy the performance live in front of her face. She has to look it through a screen. When I'm at home, I'll be the one that ons for her lah. But if I'm not at home, my parents would actually use the iPad to watch, and then she would join in and watch as well.
Alvin's mentor, veteran getai host Wang Lei, went through a rough patch earlier this year when his gigs dried up after the pandemic struck.
冠状病毒开始的时候，就2月开始到4月的时候，我整75天我的 income 都是 zero， 完全是 zero。我的 bank 已经拿钱，是拿钱，拿钱。有啦，政府那些补助帮了我们蛮多，所以我觉得这个疫情损失惨重。Hello， 大家好。
Many other top getai performers and hosts, Mr. Wang turned to selling products online. It started with a fisherman friend asking him to try selling fish through his Facebook live sessions. That proved to be an unexpected hit, and Mr. Wang has since earned more than enough to cover his losses over the last few months.
第一次我卖了金木炉，金木炉一卖下去，我整个人傻掉。 你知道我第一场的直播卖了竟然我是打算卖50条到100条，我自己做已经很开心了。那时候我帮他没有赚钱，在家里无聊嘛，就拿条鱼啊，买鱼啊，这个什么鱼，这个人家养的什么的，活生生的鱼，新鲜的鱼。结果那一天的直播给我卖了1500条。
It's a new normal for temples too. at the Toa Siu Teck Sian Tong, safe distancing rules mean that mass prayers have been significantly scaled down this year. Only 50 devotees are allowed inside the temple at any time.
The usual 7 months you see the car park at the back of the building, the whole car park is all, we have tentage and the whole car park is utilized. If you have got a family of average 3 persons, you're talking about 7,500 devotees coming at any one time. Then plus our staff, musical section, ceremony and so on and so forth. It could easily come to about 8,000-9,000 people the whole day. So this year is, as they say, is quiet as the church mouse.
So are donations affected this year?
Oh yes, very severely. Since the phase 1 till now, we're talking about close to a year, and donation has dropped drastically.
It's not just the temples. Religious goods wholesalers that cater to them have also been hit hard.
In previous years, right, customers usually pre-order from us about 1 month before 7 months starts. But this year we see a lot of last-minute order after the government released the guidelines. So we can see quite a sharp decline in our sales during 7 months, about a decline of 50%.
In recent years, the sale of religious items has also started moving online. But some things are best done the traditional way.
So I see you also sell paper iPads. So with COVID-19, can people actually do online offerings for their ancestors or the spirits?
Yeah, for paper offerings, right, they are best to be burned to the ancestors or spirits physically. So actually doing online offerings, it doesn't encompass the real meaning of the Taoist traditional practice. Because if you do online offerings, right, ancestors might not be able to receive the items.
From here to the hereafter, it's clear that few aspects of life have been spared by COVID-19, and it's forced those involved in this year's Hungry Ghost Festival to innovate. But are these changes here to stay?
So do you see this as the future for getais? You know, Facebook Lives instead of a physical stage?
To me, I feel that not that way, because most of the audiences that are watching getai are also mainly elderlies. So they would, of course, the elderlies would love to go back to the usual getai. But online getai, we can actually attract more younger viewers to watch as well.
This time last year, there was a huge makeshift stage with a getai here. There were big name stars from the getai world and a large audience. Today, there are only vehicles, as lives are put on hold during the pandemic, both for the living and the departed. And until the pandemic comes under control, change is the only constant.
Canned goods, luxury watches, smartphones, and even a yacht, all going up in smoke. It's all part and parcel of the 7th month, when people make and burn paper offerings to ensure that their loved ones' needs are met in the afterlife. Here in Hong Kong this year, however, shopkeepers are fielding new inquiries as concerns over the coronavirus rises. In Hong Kong, business is brisk in the lead-up to the Hungry Ghost Festival, the equivalent to Halloween, where spirits return from the underworld during the 7th month of the lunar calendar. Locals have flocked to Chun Sing Hong in Sheung Wan district for the past 45 years, the trusted source for afterlife products when they want the best for their deceased. It's wall-to-wall paper effigies, luxury goods that you might not have had in life, a boat, designer handbag, large screen TV, servants, or a car with a chauffeur. All have become staples. More recently, because of the coronavirus, face masks for ancestors have also popped up.
有好多嗰啲客仔啊或者顧客都想嚟買，咁我哋提供啲現成嘅俾佢啦，其實都可以燒嘅，就唔使話用紙做咯，都冇問題嘅，都有個別啦，尤其年青人啦，咁都因為傳統嚟講咧，佢陽間有嘅嘢咧，佢都想俾啲陰間人享用啦。但係你話下底有冇疫情，根本係另外一回事啦。
And if you can't find what you want for the dead relative or loved one, then you usually turn to paper effigy master Aoyong Bing Ji. The 39-year-old craftsman took over the business from his father, who started Bowa in Sam Shui Po back in the 60s. Aoyong believes his craft can help alleviate the souls in the underworld. That's why he takes hours or days to research and complete his commissions. But once sold, they burn in seconds.
冇㗎，咪當係即係去俾咗個先人用咯。係啊，所以整嗰時整到認真嘅，譬如如果係有啲開關掣嘅，咪整埋啲掣啊咁樣啲咯，即係可以俾佢可以拎出去用啊咁咯。
Because of the coronavirus this year, one of the biggest Hungry Ghost Festival celebrations usually held here in Victoria Park, organized by the Hong Kong Chiu Chow community, has been cancelled. That's because safe distancing measures for crowds of no more than 2 people 1.5 meters apart are still in place. Otherwise, crowds would be treated to Chinese opera performances praising the deities, entertaining both living and the dead in makeshift theatres across town. Line dances and other special events are also held. In spite of safe distancing restrictions though, makeshift altars still appear across the town for worshippers to pay their respects to their ancestors and to pray for wandering spirits. Worshippers, of course, are reminded to have a mask on and to leave as soon as possible after prayers and lighting of incense.
做呢啲比較細形式嘅話咧，我諗如果講有條件嘅話咧，香港都我諗少都有一半㗎啦。嚇，咁佢哋嘅形式咧就一般都係好簡單㗎啦，揾一日啊，幾個街坊啊，或者喺個盂蘭勝會場地隔離啦，咁啊就燒下衣啊，咁做一個鐘頭儀式啊，拜下咁就算數啦。
In Hong Kong, the Hungry Ghost Festival is highly treasured by the 1.2 million strong Chiu Chow community here. Their roots trace back to the mainland's Guangdong province more than a century ago. And according to Mr. Wu, whose father also helped to run Ghost Festival events, say that beyond the rituals, it's a reminder for believers to honor filial piety, and that the festival is really about making offerings to the needy. The Chiu Chow dialect for observance is literally translated to feeding the forsaken, and that applies to both living and the dead.
This is one of Vietnam's biggest hubs of consumer goods for the dead. Hot commodities include paper items to ensure the dearly departed lead a prosperous and comfortable afterlife. From the latest cars to new houses. Mrs. Lin owns one of the biggest shops here, a supermarket for the spirit world. Her shop in the town of Song Ho has been around for over 4 decades, but this year has been the hardest yet.
Mỗi năm thì tất cả coi như là cả một cái rằm thì ai trông vào cái rằm tháng 7, như năm nay thì nói chung là tất cả toàn dân đều ế, hàng tồn lại nhiều. Vì sao? Vì là Covid, dân không có tiền, dân không có tiền thì nó chậm trễ.
Mrs. Hương, who lives in a nearby village, is in the same boat. 3 generations of her family have been making and selling paper offerings. But it's not quite business as usual this year. Their sales saw a 40% drop.
Tiêu thụ thì ai cũng lo cái mùa Covid là sẽ không bán được hàng. Đâm ra là tiểu thương như bọn em là có hạn chế về mặt hàng, không dám làm nhiều.
During the 7th month on the lunar calendar, places for the dead bustle with the living. Like this graveyard, the largest one in Hanoi.
Ngày xưa là mình bé thì mình cũng hay đi theo các cụ đến đây là để thắp hương về tưởng nhớ tới các cụ, những người đã sinh thành ra bố mẹ mình.
I'm here at a famous local pagoda where thousands of people would gather here to pray on regular settings on the Hungry Ghost Festival, but not this year because of the concern over COVID-19. The praying ceremony is now in the online form. But some people are still bracing the risk to come here with their masks on to pray. And that is a telling of how important the Hungry Ghost Festival is in Vietnam's traditional beliefs.
Streaming a praying ceremony inside. In Hanoi this 7th month, Many have adopted a new way of sending their prayers in the face of coronavirus, attending live streams of prayer sessions to pay their respects to the dead while staying safe and away from crowds. It's clear that there's no escaping the new normal, both for the living and for the dead.
Summer in Japan is ghost season. In mid-August is the Obon festival, when spirits of ancestors are believed to return to this world. And haunted houses do a roaring trade all summer, drawing crowds looking for a chill. This year, some of these summertime staples are finding ways to spook customers while sticking to COVID-19 guidelines. Are socially distanced scares anything to scream about? Join me as I find out. You might be familiar with her. This is the typical Japanese ghost. It's an image that can be traced back to a ghost portrayed in a kabuki theater piece from 1825 called Oiwa, a tale of betrayal, murder, and revenge. And it's an image made unforgettable all over the world by the iconic horror movie The Ring. This figure is the star of what's been called Japan's scariest haunted house, located here in Tokyo Dome City, a popular amusement park in the Japanese capital. Welcome. This is the house of a vengeful ghost, a young lady named Yoko, killed and buried by her cheating fiancé.
It's so dark I can't see where I'm walking.
I wasn't the only one terrified.
思った以上に怖くて寒いぐらい。
若い時は彼氏と近寄れる。
最近コロナの影響であんまりこういうのなくなったじゃないですか。
Safe measures are in place to keep coronavirus fears at bay. You have to disinfect yourself and put on a pair of gloves, as touching is part of the experience. A maximum of 4 people can enter at one time to ensure safe distancing. And since you have a mask on, go ahead and scream to your heart's delight. COVID-19 restrictions and fears over clusters forming in popular venues have sent visitor numbers plummeting. This house of horrors used to draw 1,000 people a day before the pandemic. Now it sees just a third of that. With even popular haunted houses struggling, smaller players in the horror business have had to head back to the drawing board and get creative to attract customers amid the pandemic. 25-year-old Kenta Iwana worried he'd have to wind up his horror event company this summer. So he came up with some ideas to deliver unique scares while keeping to COVID-19 guidelines.
ドライブインをシアターだったりだとかドライブインフェスみたいなそういったドライブインと何かを掛け合わせたものが世界中で流行ってるというのをこう聞いてドライブインとお化け屋敷を掛け合わせたらドライブインお化け屋敷ができるな。
The seats are covered with plastic sheets that are changed after each session to ensure hygiene. It's my turn now. They're screaming and slamming at the windows and doors, but you don't have to worry about respiratory droplets here, as you sit safe but scared inside the car. And here comes the ghost again. this time to clean bloodstains off the car. These haunted houses have been a lifeline for some of these spooky creatures. But the pandemic meant theaters around the country had to close for a few months, leaving the two women with no income.
純粋にお仕事なのでお金が発生するのでそこは純粋に助かります。
The scary driving is so popular, there are now about 1,000 people on the wait list. And the drive-through haunted house is far from Kenta's only COVID-19 friendly brainchild.
もうちょっとコンパクトなスペースでもどこでもできるようなものって何かないかなと思って考えてた時に、棺に入っていただければ持ち運びができるし、ちゃんと四方が囲まれてるのでオーバーケットのソーシャルディスタンスも確保されてる。
This time, I'm invited into a showroom filled with second-hand coffins. I slip on a pair of headphones and lie down. There's no escape.
ねえ、聞こえる？そう、美しいか。
You can scream and cry in the closed coffin. And the ghost will disinfect everything before the next customer arrives. Haunted houses in the age of COVID-19 are not short on terror, as I found out. You can stay safe while still getting your scares. And as companies find ways to make COVID-19 restrictions part of the experience, this could spell the start of a new era for haunted houses. Kenta, for one, is not done yet. He is working on yet another coronavirus-safe horror event, this time taking the haunted house experience online. Beware, the coronavirus might not be able to get you there, but she might.